You're listening to On the Couch with Dr. Michelle, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my couch, as you always are, now on Wednesdays, 11 Pacific Standard Time, and wherever you're at around the world. We always have some great guests, amazing guests. And I always like to dive deep into why they chose their particular profession, and also not only talk about psychological issues, but get into the more spiritual issues, if you please. I don't know if you prefer the word spiritual or you prefer higher consciousness or whatever it is. You know me and my work. This is what I focus on. And I'm always fascinated with why people get into trying to understand more about themselves. Specifically today, we're talking about the Akashic Records. And what does that mean? We all have heard, different ideas. So many so-called spiritual leaders talk about the Akashic Records. I really got into the particular subject by listening to Dolores Cannon's work, also, not only her audio, but also reading some of her books. You've heard me talk about Dolores on the show many times before, but she explored individuals' Akashic records and their past and their real soul's journey. What is that all about? Today, we're going to be talking about that, how you might be able to understand what your soul journey or purpose is in this life. So many people come to me and ask me that. What is my purpose? I can't find it. Well, there is a way that we might be able to find out. Getting back to my special guest, she's going to talk about us experiencing our Akashic Records, how she has turned that into helping others through an amazing experience she had. There she is, Mary Medeiros. There you are, girl. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. So I'm on the couch now, right? This is fun.
You're on it. And
I'm honored.
Oh, so am I. I'm honored to have you. And just to, I was just sort of joking around with my producer a little bit earlier, saying, I could talk about Mary Medeiros' career in television and film for about 30 minutes, but I want to talk about that as well as the Akashic Records, and how you got into it. So, let me just do a little intro bio here, and then we'll be off and running, and we'll get into those questions. Again, I could go on and on, but here we are. Mary Medeiros, you've had an amazing career of working in television, network TV, production, directing. That's your creative art coming out. Super successful spiritual practice as well right now, working in the Akashic Records.
Yes.
Folks, if you Google Mary in the who's who in television directors, her name is way up there on the top of the list. She's worked for the CBS, NBC, ABC television networks. She's won 3 Emmy Awards for direction, Directors Guild of America Award. She's directed 7 top-rated daytime dramas, those really cool ones that we all love to watch, for all 3 major networks. She directed 2 morning talk shows, CBS Morning with hosts Gayle King, yay, and Charlie Rose, and CBS's innovative show, The Morning Program. Like I said, I could go on for the next half hour about Mary Medeiros and her amazing background. But today, we're going to be talking about that, how she sort of experienced that in her life, how she sees it now in the industry, as we call it here in Hollywood. And also, we're going to talk about her other fascination and the helpful work she does for you folks out there, and how you can get in touch with her and find out more in the Akashic Records. Am I pronouncing that right? Akashic Records?
Yes, you are. And I really appreciate you truncating the career part. I so appreciate that.
Oh my goodness!
Because then we can get to the juice of everything.
Yes, girl. I get a little wrapped up in specifics sometimes, so I have to. I want to cover it all. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, I understand. Yeah.
So, with that being said, so you have had an amazing, and still have an amazing career in television networks, and won numerous awards. And how was that for you? Just did you step into it slowly, or were you sort of, wow, this woman is amazing and intelligent and she's creative. Let's make her
Yeah.
important. So maybe you can talk about your beginnings.
Well, interesting. I studied music in college and education. I was on my way to teach. And I kind of got turned off by a professor who wanted me to have a giant divide between me and the students. And I was student teaching public junior high. And I like to refer to that time period as like the hormones are flying and bouncing off the walls.
That's for sure.
And so I had a way of not becoming their best friends, but like they felt support from me. And if you want to talk about one teacher that can turn you off, he turned me off to teaching, almost failed me, and I had great grades everywhere else. And I just knew that if I went into that field, I would turn it upside down, and yet I would have been a great teacher for certain students. So anyway, it was trajectory and everything. What's interesting, and this relates to the Akashic Records, because every choice that I made in my life when I came to forks or decision making, I now know from having worked in the Akashic Records since 2008 and in my own records and others, that what divine is imparting all the time, which is this validation and truth of who we really are, each one of us. I realized that all the trajectories that I took were in 100% alignment with why I'm here, what my soul's journey is, including not going into the teaching. So I went into, this was in the New York area. I'm from New York City, born in New York City. So I went to school in that area. And when I came out of college, I got a job again in a different arena. And I always, since I was very little, crazy household, as most of us can say.
Right.
And my lifesaver when I was a child growing up were old movies. I watched old movies, and in New York, it was The Late Show, The Late Late Show, The Late 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 Show. Yes. And so I immersed myself in storytelling, and it saved my life. And so now put that on hold, then I go in different directions, and I'm back in New York City after college. And I was in a job that was taking me into sales, working on Fifth Avenue, great job.
Yeah.
And an opening came up as then we called it secretary at the local news station in New York, WCBS.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't have a family that would understand the things you're talking about right now. I'll say that. And so I was kind of alone. And I always knew I wanted to be in storytelling somehow, involved in storytelling in media. I just felt it. I just felt it. So I took the secretarial job, and I left this very promising career in sales where I would have made a ton of money at that time. Yeah. And so everyone thought I was crazy, but it got me into WCBS. And then I worked my way up, and I watched production, and I learned, while I was there. I got turned every time there was a job opening, a production assistant, where I would rip scripts and run around doing things. Wow. Then the next thing was assistant director, and that got me in the Directors Guild, and then director. But as I was working my way up, every single time I was up for a job, I got turned down by a man every single time, more than once. Yeah, sure. I just persevered, which is my message to all women who want to be working in the industry. You just have to keep going. And I'm sure you know this, right? Yeah. So I did. I just stuck with it. And then I got on news broadcasts, and I worked with Diane Sawyer and Meredith Vieira, all those folks, Lester Holt, as they were all coming up. We were all kind of coming up together. Right. So that's how I got in television. But I was mostly in news and sports, and I still was craving fiction, storytelling, right? Not just live news, because it was always so negative, and I wasn't a match to it.
Right.
All they care about is the negative aspects of everything. Right.
That's for real.
Yeah. And it took its toll on me, and I didn't even know. It was kind of eating me up inside, and everybody I worked with. So an opening, again, I was working on an opening happened. I became an assistant director on a new show down the hall with Marriott Hartley, and that was the morning program, which innovative live audience, which had never been done in the morning. We launched the careers of Bob Saget, bless him, and they're really well-known people now. Yeah. And so I went over there as an assistant director, and the director they hired couldn't handle it. He was failing, and we were 2 weeks from going on air with this brand new idea. And so the executive producer, who had come from LA, called me on a Friday and said, "You're it, kid." And I moved into the director position.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So that took that launched that part of my career. But I was still that was live, and I still was craving fiction.
Right.
I felt it. We feel inside ourselves, and this is what the records can help us affirm, is that we know inside when something is not fully complete or not. It's just there's something missing. Right. So there was always something missing for me. And then there was an opening where I would have gone backwards a little bit in position from director to AD, assistant director. And it was over on NBC, and it was on a soap opera. It was Another World, that soap opera that was on like 35 years.
Right.
So I took that, and everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, "Why are you doing that? Why are you leaving being a director to go over here?" Well, the show I was working with Marriott Hartley, it got canceled anyway. So I had to sort of scramble, and CBS was not, they did some nasty things at that time, not worth going into, but I probably could have sued them, and I didn't because I was scared over pay disparity, over lots of stuff. So instead, I ran over to NBC and took the assistant director position on Another World, and that's where I worked my way up and eventually became a contract director there, and then I started working on all the other soaps. So that was the television part. That's the media part of my career.
That's amazing. I mean, that's you did. You trekked through it. You got through it. You hung in there, and great advice, for a lot of other women.
Oh, I recently had a lovely man. His daughter is a documentary maker and producer, and I met him at a gathering that had nothing to do with what we talked about. Yeah. And he told me about his daughter, and he said she's disheartened about women directors, and so she's thinking of leaving that what she wants to do. And I said to him at this table, I said, no, give her my number, have her call me. She can't, if her heart is in it, she cannot leave. She has to stick with it. So I did. I spoke to her, and I actually did an Akashic reading with her to help her affirm for herself what she was feeling drawn to, which was her path. So she continued to, I think she's still doing documentaries.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, that's how we can help each other.
That's so true. And, it's interesting. When I was lucky to get into broadcasting originally, specifically radio, because I was tenacious.
See?
And I worked at a small radio station here in Los Angeles and started making air checks and sending it out to all the big ones. I was very consistent. And the news director hired me as a part-time news and journalist and reporter for what was taken over eventually by ABC and Disney. But the reason why they hired me was because they said, the FCC is cracking down on hiring women and minorities. So that they didn't say, "Oh, it's because you're good," and that's okay. Cool. I'll take any way I could get it. So I said, "Great." So that's how I started.
Good for you.
Point.
Yeah, and at least they said it, because now they're doing it. And an example is and you can look this up online. There's a new soap. Soaps have been going off the air. There were 15 when I started. There's 3 network soaps now. So there's a new one coming out. It's replacing the show, The Talk. The Talk is going off, and January 25th is premiering. CBS is premiering a new soap opera that will be all Black storylines.
Oh, very cool.
I'm thinking like, wow, we're in that'll be 2025, and we're only now talking about Black storylines. So, and anyway, I've thrown my hat in that, as there's a team of us that are seeing if they're going to work, what directors they're going to hire. So I'm still waiting to hear.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love
Yeah. So it could be, it could work or not. I just love working with actors. It's one of my favorite things.
that. You know
And
what? Yeah, I
yeah,
love your humbleness, Mary, as well, because you received all of these awards and accolades, and like I said, you're on the top
mhm.
of the list of who's who and directors here. But you attribute so much of it to the fine people you worked with, and I love your humility. I really do. I mean,
Well, I really feel that. And yeah, I was, I worked when I was an assistant director, I was always sitting next to, they were all men, and they were like Hitlers, many of them. And this is not about them personally, but I
oh,
remember sitting in that chair and my job was to make them look good, which I did. I always did because I
sure,
knew I wasn't going to burn a bridge.
sure,
But I would go home so frustrated at night because they would treat the actors like crap. They
yeah,
would berate them. They would not give them good notes. They just wanted to get there. It was just wow. So I turned that into a fire in me of how I would handle it when I was in that seat. So
yeah,
when I was in that seat, I always made it. I mean, my mic was hot when I was working in news.
mhm.
When I was doing network news, my mic was hot to the whole building. And so the people who were down in the edit bays, they were all listening to me in my cues, sitting in front of 150 monitors. And I would have executive producers screaming at me. And I even had an executive producer, a
Oh
woman,
my God.
yell at me on one of the soaps. She yelled at me for
Yeah.
being, in quote, too nice to the actors. You're too nice.
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
and I said, but if they feel safe, you're going to get a better scene. They're going to feel better. They're going to do better in their work. You get a better scene. You're going to
Right.
get a better show. We're going to get a better show.
Right.
We're going to get a better rating, and the advertisers will be happy. So
Right.
she didn't like that response, but everybody was equal. The crew, I knew them all by names. All the people in the other parts of the building, I
Mhm.
thanked them on that mic every day when we were rolling tapes and everything, and that bothered some of the Hitlers that were around me.
Sure.
And I got my hand slapped for it, for being kind. Yeah.
God. No,
Mhm.
I understand. And it doesn't help. It makes us really resent a lot of that whole vibe, around
And
the
also then people who like a lot of the crew, they're on their feet all day. A director can come in and do one show and leave, right? Or the producer comes in one day and then another producer comes in the
uh-huh.
next day. But the crew, they're on their feet. They're sitting in those edit bays in the dark all
Right.
day, right? And they're doing it because they have loyalty to the company. They're getting benefits. They're putting their kids, they have mortgages. They're putting their children, they're supporting their families, putting them through colleges. And I used to say to them, why do you take this abuse? And some of them would go to, I asked them, did you go to human resources? And they laughed and went, that's a joke. That
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Right.
And the answer was always, what am I going to do if I don't have this job? I can't support my family and pay for my house.
Exactly.
And
No,
so the bullies know that. If you were to walk into one of the networks in New York right now, you would be, this is not me telling a story of the past. That is the culture right now.
yes.
It's abuse and they allow it.
It-
And I don't
it's
know, I was really glad to get out of it when I got out of it. And then not in soap operas. That's not
Sure.
the culture because soaps are slower and,
Yes.
and easier. But
Yes.
when I got to California and my first soap there was General Hospital,
Right.
I was so used to the, when I say fierce speed of New York, that's where I was trained. Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's like that all day. When I got to LA, I was doing General Hospital and they were kind of trying me out. And it was, first of all, it was calmer.
Yes.
I went and did like all the scenes on one set because the actors wanted that. They're so fast. I got into the control room and the producer, we rehearsed scene one and there were
Right.
maybe 5
Right.
more scenes on that set.
Yeah.
And when I went to do the next scene, the producer went, "Whoa, wait a minute, what?" And I said, "Oh yeah, we rehearsed all of them."
Right.
And she just smiled at me and went, "Oh, we don't do that here. We do
Oh,
we do one at a time." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's the difference in New York and LA."
right. Exactly. That's funny.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Right. Um,
A lot slower in LA.
it
Whoa.
is. It is. It's mellower. I
Mhm.
was working
Slower. Mhm.
let's see. I was working for an ABC radio station in San Francisco, as a journalist,
Mhm.
and they gave me a late night talk show as well.
Nice.
So, but I did not like being out there with a microphone in someone's face, challenging people.
Oh,
Singers,
in the field, you mean? Oh,
I did not like that feeling of, why did you do that? Do you think that you're is guilty? And the energy of fighting with other reporters to get that story or break that.
oh, yep, the competition.
Like the feeling of putting people on the spot, and it was just for me creepy. I just that's the only word I could say. I don't
Mhm.
want to bust. I mean, there are people who sometimes deserve it. Won't mention any names, but it's more like I was able to segue that night show into a nightly talk show. So I really enjoyed that because, like you, I'm more of a people person. They said to me, "You're too nice. You're
Oh,
just too nice."
same thing.
Well, and that's bad because, but anyway, same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Or there's the other part of this too, where and I know women are still encountering this because I see it sometimes.
right,
It certainly was the morning show with Jennifer Aniston. That was right on the money. That was so how it is. That was my world. But the opposite is if you're a woman
right.
who stands up strong and says no, or is just firm and
Mhm.
strong, then you get in trouble for being a biatch. You get in trouble for that. And but
Well,
the men can scream and yell and berate, and I worked with them, and they were so like really mean to crew, to people on the sets, whatever. And so if I were to stand up and go, nope, we're not doing that, we're doing this, it'll be like, well, who are you? I'm like, I'm the director. Right?
hello,
Women who,
remember me?
yeah, women who speak up, you get it's a negative
Right.
response
It's
instead of being strong and knowing and making a decision.
Well, you have to. We really sometimes have to, and then
Yes, you
it's
have to.
taken as a bitch. I mean,
Right.
she's such a
Well,
bitch.
and think
Well,
about this.
okay.
When I've had actors like Tony Geary and Jeannie Francis on
Oh,
General Hospital,
lovely,
just
lovely.
so professional. Oh my gosh. And it's like everybody said to me when I first got there, like, oh, watch out for them. Watch out for Jeannie Francis. And I don't care anyone hearing this because I have a good story to tell, which is I loved working with her. I
Yes,
wanted honesty. She was they are the two of them beyond professional. Okay.
yes,
So professional. They would
yes.
come in prepared. And if there was something in the script that didn't work for them, there was probably something that we needed to look at. Right. But it got a different, when actors would be like, I'm not doing it, or I'm upset about this, they got a bad rap. Men and women, they would get a bad rap. When I was the one that always wanted to know, why are you feeling this way? Let's look at it.
Right.
And
Oh,
so,
well,
and then I got in trouble for that because it looked like I was sort of leaning in with them to support them being, not nice, whatever.
yeah,
But
exactly. Or how dare you let the actors speak about their discomfort with a particular storyline, or
exactly.
you know,
Right. That's
or
the director's role.
right,
Our role as a director is to provide a safe space
right.
for creativity for everybody, the camera people, the boom people. Everybody has to feel really safe, and then they're going to enjoy their job, and then they're going to do better. My
Yeah.
my success is from the crews I worked with. I learned everything from the crews.
Well, bless your heart. But,
I
they
did.
learned a lot from you and how you direct and
Mhm.
really get that whole vibe across to the stories and all you've done for 30 years and as
Yeah.
a very famous director and Emmy Award winner. And I mean, my goodness, how fun. That's fun work, I would think. But
It is. Yes, it is. It is.
that,
I
yeah.
used to think it driving, especially in LA, because when I got to LA, I was like, I loved it out there. And I remember driving to work, and I had a little convertible, and would look at the mountains going down to ABC, and I would go, I feel so grateful and so lucky. This is like so cool that I
Right,
get to do this. So
right,
yeah, I remember being in it. And still to this day, if I'm invited to a set, I'm just going to be like in heaven again. Because
sure.
just, when you know what you do, when you feel confident about what you do and you love what you do, it
Right.
doesn't matter if you step away from it for some time. When you step back in, you're using your voice in a different way,
Yes.
but you're
Absolutely.
still you doing that, right?
Right, right. I'm blessed as well. You know, I've been very blessed because I've been able to help folks like you are, which brings me to
The records.
having such a lengthy career, and you still are working in television and as a
Mhm.
very famous, well-known director, award-winning director. How did you want? Let's get into the Akashic records.
Mhm.
Fascinated with this. As I said in my intro, I've read a lot of Dolores Cannon information,
I
and
love her. Oh,
isn't she cool? I just love
yes.
that lady. But you know, her thing was regression, people
Mhm.
regression them back, and she said, "I'm just the reporter. I just report what comes through
Right.
at really deep level of whatever theta brainwaves or whatever's going on." But she would say, "You know, I'm just saying what people are telling me about the Akashic records, and this is what I've learned." So that's she has been my biggest teachers, but there are so many other spiritual leaders and people who say, "Well, it is real." So let's talk about what was it that helped you wind up being into Akashic records and
And
fascinated with it, helping other people. What was that?
well, in terms of like daily life, not daily life, but sort of logistically, how it happened was through a psychic reading that I had. I used to go to a psychic down in, I think, Manhattan Beach, somewhere down there, Huntington, and
Mm,
I
yeah.
used to go to her every several months. Loved her, and this one day she said, "Oh, there's this dude on your over your shoulder," and I said, "What?
What?
Yeah, really? Who is he?" So she said, "Well, he says that." Well, there are two things that were very telling about this. He's he sends no, he translates sacred geometry into
Right.
creative ideas and sends them to you. And he's been with you like your whole life. And what's interesting about that is when I would be working with actors and would have an idea on the in the moment with them,
Uh-huh.
and I would say, "Hey, what about whatever?" I'd bring it up, never fail. The more seasoned actors would go, "Oh my God, I love that. Where'd you get that idea?" And I used to wave it off to my right side and go, "I don't know. It kind of came in." I would give it away like it came in.
Right.
I
Right. Right.
didn't
Right.
put two and two together until I heard the psychic say that
Yes.
he was doing that. The second
Uh-huh.
thing he said was, I oversee and protect your Mary's Akashic records."
Oh.
And I asked her, "What are those?" And she said, the psychic said, "I don't know, but that's what he says he does."
Wow,
So,
very
yes.
interesting. I love that. So
So I began looking into it a little bit, but it wasn't like choirs going off. It was, I knew it. I was like, this is interesting. And then I kind of went on with wherever I was working at the time. And then there was a second sign, and it may be a place, the Bodhi tree,
sure.
which is a metaphysical bookstore in LA. And I was in the Bodhi tree one day in the back room by myself, and there was a book teetering off the shelf above me that called my attention to it. Like, really, it was just sticking. And I looked up and I pulled it down, and it was How to Read Your Akashic Records.
Oh,
So I know you can't write this stuff. And
no.
I went, okay. And I was alone in that room, and I was like, all right, I'm going to buy this book. And it is written by Linda Howe, who I wound up studying with. So I opened the book and I began reading, and in that book she shows us how to open our own records. And I was having blocks of thought come in that were not my own, and
Wow.
I doubted it, and I doubted myself,
Uh-huh.
because I thought maybe it's my imagination or not real or whatever. So I kind of secretly was doing that for a while,
Right.
and
You
then
don't talk about it too much to
not really. And
coworkers.
then the third sign was on one of my birthdays. I was living in New York, because I'd gone back to New York and then back to LA. But my dearest friend um, gave me a card, and there was enough cash in the card to start studying with Linda Howe through her Center for Akashic Studies out of Chicago.
Wow.
So, like, that was it. I was like, okay, the universe is showing me something.
Right.
I have to pay attention to this. Well, my world opened up. And not only was it easy, it was amazing. I worked on my own wounds. I was shown when appropriate, when needed, past lives of my own. And the studying was great because what we were doing in Linda's classes is just all the students would open each other's records. That's what we were doing. So we were getting used to the
Yeah.
high vibrational energy of the divine records themselves.
Oh,
So it's getting used to it. It's very subtle. But I knew that these were thoughts that were not mine, because I know the difference between, I think we all do, if we just think
right.
about it, thoughts that we conjure up from
Right.
the conscious space, and
Yeah.
then those that just pop in.
Right. And that I think that's, and I do want to ask you specifically, because there are a lot of viewers who don't understand what the Akashic records
Yes.
are. But I think to your point, I think that's one of the most difficult issues with people. I know it has been with me in my spiritual journey, is delineating between because I'm a psychologist, what are my
Right.
fears and what's coming in, oh, what if, or these little pops, as opposed to you're just doing something like mopping the floor, and all of a sudden you get this download.
Yeah,
But it's like, okay, that's real. So
exactly.
sort of
Yeah,
it's a fine line sometimes, because we have our own inner journey of subconscious fears and messages and prejudices and whatever that is, but we have to be able to be very aware of being in nothingness in the now in order to receive the information. So
that's true.
so
Being in the now, the records.
what yeah, no, what are the Akashic records?
So the Akashic
So
records they've been around since the beginning of time, from what I'm learning. And it's an ethereal realm that contains, like,
Mhm.
we could call it a spiritual imprint of every soul's journey, lifetime after lifetime. So the records actually contain all of our thoughts, our experiences from every lifetime. That's, based on a few things. Number one, that our soul chooses each lifetime to come in for various reasons, right? Like an overarching theme, not to come in and be abused and whatever.
Right.
We could talk about that, because
Yes.
when we think, wait a minute, why would my soul choose that? The
Right.
soul doesn't choose those circumstances. The soul chooses the bigger journey. And those circumstances always, 100% of the time, when we look through the lens of our own records, feed into our soul's choice that we made. So it's always a choice. It's not predestined.
Right.
It's not like that at all. It's not based on any books. It's not religious. It is a spiritual imprint. Edgar Casey was accessing the Akashic realm. I
Yes.
didn't know this, and I was following Edgar Casey for years, and I had no idea until after I started studying the records that
Mhm.
that's the field he was going into when he was getting all those downloads. Madame Blavatsky, who started the Theosophy movement, she refers to it in the Bible. Actually, there's a reference to the Book of Life. So it's had different names throughout history. That is this idea of this realm, not a physical thing we can see, but it's this ethereal realm, and or an experiential body of knowledge, we can call it, of each person's trajectory, their journey, lifetime after lifetime. It's
Mhm.
amazing. And when we, by intention and by belief, access our own records, or help somebody access their records, we're basically opening up that portal to ourselves. And I like to say to my clients when we're working together is having a conversation with your own higher self of your own records. And I'm just hearing the quantum information squeeze through my brain, like Dolores Cannon did, coming through here and then coming back out, so it's understandable. It's different than channeling, because channeling is more, or psychic readings rather. Psychic readings are more one-on-one with somebody on the other side. This
Right.
is an overview of our lives.
Right.
And when we access it, we're getting the energy of our soul mirrored to us. We're being reminded who we are. That's basically it. It's reminding us. And why do we need to be reminded? Well, we're in a third dimensional, dense, on a planet that is pretty dense, right? And
Yep.
challenging. And so we forget that we're divine. We forget
Right.
a lot, right? And when we're in our records, the records mirror to us what our soul chose.
Right.
And so it's always remembering. There's never any new information. It may feel new to a client, but it's always like, whoa. It's always a whoa, like a remembering, right?
Yep.
So that's what the records are, okay?
Uh-huh. Okay.
We're basing it on the idea that, first of all, belief in source is very important.
Yes.
I say source, creator, whatever you want to call it. It was called God in the old days. And so we have to believe in that there is this source of everything, which is the field. And the records refer to it as the all that isness of everything
Right.
in the now, always.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
it's quantum and it's energy, it's divine energy. So it's always just moving and shifting. It's
Yes.
morphing and shifting and changing. It has no beginning, middle, or end. Right.
Right.
And then the second idea that's important is the belief, for me, knowledge that we come lifetime after lifetime, and we don't come to learn lessons. I haven't learned that from the records. That's an old idea.
Okay.
Or to fix things that were bad in the past. We come by choice. Everything's choice, 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 choice.
So
An example, somebody might choose, a soul may choose to incarnate at a particular time to learn self or to experience self-love. And maybe they didn't experience self-love in their other incarnations, but on this one, there's a choice about that. Well, that person could choose and wind up in a family where there was no love, which is going to guide them directly into the face of self-love. You know what I mean? It's like there's always, when we're in the records, we're shown, it's the most amazing tool I have ever worked with or known. Because when we look at life through that lens, everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. Everything, clarity, clarity, clarity. Everything is always okay. And we come to learn that almost everything that we might experience as trauma is perceived. Now, perceived, that doesn't mean it's not trauma. The records always say we're not invalidating any kind of pain and discomfort that you went through, but they are choices.
Right.
Or if there's subconscious patterns, that's Bruce Lipton's work, then that's another thing that they talk about.
It's a whole other thing. Exactly.
That's a whole other thing. Those secret little patterns that operate.
That's right.
96, 97% of our behavior from the background. But anyway, so those two things are important when opening the records: the belief in source, creator, and then the knowing that it's that same soul coming and not coming to get it right, coming to what I understand the purpose of our life on this planet over and over again is to feed back into source itself.
Yes.
For more expansion of light.
Right. To experience. And we're fascinating little creatures. We Homo sapiens sapiens in our 3D, and we are so powerful. I don't think people realize how.
No, that's right. And that's another thing that every single reading, that's what comes through. That the clients, including myself, when I open my records, I come away going, oh my gosh, like I feel my own divine power, because we are that. I grew up, that it was the man in the cloud, the bearded man in the clouds. And even as a child, I didn't really believe that, but I wasn't a rebel. I just went, well, all right. And then went my own way when I grew up.
Right. So that's cool. I mean, that way, you found, what was really true for you, and everyone, I guess, in their journey of coming back, has to sort of figure out exactly what they choose to believe or want to believe, and that's fine, and that's beautiful, and whatever. Everybody has their own choice, as you have had your choice to examine the Akashic records and why we come back or what we're here for, and to answer questions, and primarily to help others.
Well, that's it. That's my own. I mean, that's why I do it, because it's like, when you discover it's like, we go back to when we were kids, and you have groups of kids that you hang out with, and one in the group finds a diamond, while they're playing out in the street or something. Which of those kids is going to take the diamond, be secret about it, and just run and hide and go get the money? Yeah. Or which of the kids is going to go, look what I found. Yeah. Let's cash it in. Let's find out if it belongs to someone, but let's cash it in and we'll split the money.
Yes.
And that's how I felt once I discovered the records. I mean, I could have gone on just opening my own records and solving and figuring out my life. But I was like, no. And my record showed me in my own readings that I was here to do this work and to write books about it. So, I was like, okay. And I remembered saying to my own records, I'd sit at my computer and I would listen. I'm not a writer. And the records were like, no, your records show you writing. So actually, I've already written 1, 2, 3 screenplays. I mean, I'm writing. I
Yes.
never thought I was a writer.
Interesting. So you just allowed that, let that in because
I
you
let it in.
your higher self. Is that fair to say? Your higher self?
Yeah, kind of. It was in other words, I learned, well, here's the thing. It wasn't new information, but I let my mind get in the way a little bit. That's why I'm a really good example when I work with people
Yes.
about the nitty-gritty of this, ethereal realm called the Akashic Records, because I've had my own journey, my own questions, my own falling on my face in my life and wondering what was that. But
Right.
then when I would run it through the lens of my own records, I would just get these ahas, like
Beautiful. Yeah.
everything makes sense. And that's because I know that there is this source of everything, which,
Right.
by the way, one thing that I have to say is when the guy over my shoulder and all that in the reading, like, it wasn't new to me in a sense. Well, the being with me, I was like, wow, okay, cool. But I have to say, when I first opened the records and the sense that I had and what I felt was exactly how I felt when I was little and I was in church. I grew up Catholic. When I was in church, very little, it was still in
Wow.
Latin. I'm actually,
Yeah.
right about when they were getting rid of
Yes.
the Latin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I remembered the music and I remembered feeling
Yes.
something. And
Yes.
I felt like I could cry. I like being really little, and I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't believe in confession
Right.
and all that garbage. I just felt something, right? Well, when
Right.
I began to open my records, I found out that I was in a past life a cloistered nun who was writing,
Interesting. Okay.
similar to Hildegard von Bingen. I don't know if I was her, but I was like, oh, no wonder. And when I was in college, I studied Gregorian chant. There were maybe 3
Oh,
people in my class who
that's
studied that.
fascinating. Yeah.
So it made, and that's what happens when we're in the records and we start talking about the things we're concerned about. The records impart to us stuff about our past, things about us that trigger a memory.
Mhm.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, that's right. I mean,
Wow.
sometimes I will have words. I actually have a very funny example that I want to share. It was a client of mine who, she was in a really rough spot. And I think she can't, everybody comes to their own records. That's how it works. Everybody. I don't have any clients where I say, I think you need a reading. Nope, they come.
Right.
So this woman came, but she was really in a dark spot. Like, and I have no ego when I'm in someone's records. That's part of the prayer that I do, where
Nice.
the ego's on the couch in the corner of the room. So I had no opinion about it. But at some point, out of nowhere, I got this. They showed me a picture of a toilet bowl. I'm not kidding. And I was like, so I questioned it, and I said to her, I don't know why I'm seeing like a toilet. And she kind of made a face and she goes, well, I just got a new toilet delivered yesterday and I was flushing it to try and make sure it works. Okay, well, where'd that come from, right? So
Yeah.
now I know when I get things like that, I just say it. I have to say it because it's my role.
You're just reading things
Yes.
that are to me. You're
And-
just
and-
sort of feeling
yes.
it.
And I will get things and people will go, oh my God, when I was little, that was my favorite thing to do. That happens a lot. Well, why
Right.
is that coming up? Maybe it's time to bring that energy in and acknowledge it and maybe go there again. Who knows? Because we do get in
Right.
this life, and I'm sure this is your experience with your clients, we all get so shut down, don't we? By belief systems and
Oh, yeah.
parents.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So sad. It's just sad. I have such compassion for everybody, including myself, but I've come through that.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And I have so many other questions, and I'd love you to come back on the show.
Absolutely.
I mean, lovely, because I mean, I have, I want to know more about your past lives that you've recovered or gotten in touch with. I want to ask you why we have amnesia, when we come back, and if we are, I would say, upgraded in our frequency or our beings, who we are when we keep coming back.
Okay.
I have all these questions, but we have 5 minutes left.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. The amnesia I've got to address because it's funny.
Okay.
If we remembered when we first come in, we would go right back.
And okay, because we wouldn't need to learn, or
We wouldn't want to leave that divine soup that we come from.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yet on some level, we've made a choice, right, to be here for whatever, But yeah, we can talk more about that. Absolutely, we can do it again, and I would love to, and just really talk records and only records.
yes, I would love that. And
Mhm.
so okay, so we make a choice.
Mhm.
We're in that sort of in that light, and I mean it's the connection, the soul, the being comes into. Do we choose our parents into the womb?
That's why I like to say it's an overarching choice. So in other words, we're not choosing specifically, we're not choosing the specifics because we're in non-physical. And in non-physical, we're not specific.
Right.
We're doing self-love.
Right.
The Twin Towers, when they came down, I think Abraham Hicks addressed this.
Yes.
That every soul of those thousands of souls, on some level, they chose. Now people would go, "Oh, they chose to get hit by a plane in a building." No, but they all chose on some level
Controversial.
to participate in one of the grandest designs of global love. Because the world came together when those towers came down in a way that it had not. And so those souls were participating in that expansive idea. So those souls on the other side, before coming in, could have made an agreement, or not agreement, a choice, to participate in a grand design of love. And so, and that may have happened with the Holocaust as well. And now people have a hard time with it because then they're thinking with their minds, you mean they chose it? No. But the soul is looking for opportunities to feed into that overarching theme that they chose to come in and express. Let's call it that. And so in that sense, the parents that we wind up with that feel like crap sometimes, or they feel wonderful, but
right.
It does fit in. When we look into our records, we will see that those situations that felt really bad, like mine, I had a bully brother, really bad brother.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, that gave me resilience throughout all the stuff we were talking about in the industry. Right. So it does fit. It doesn't.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We have learning journeys, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And it's like you said, it's all about quantum consciousness too, and that is higher source, that is vibrational. I love the physicist Nassim Haramein because
love him,
right? And he's very spiritual, but he's a world-renowned physicist who's explored so many different aspects of the quantum field, which is we are all one and part of that. And
absolutely, and Bruce Lipton does too.
Absolutely,
I mean, he's a science guy, right? And then he learned, and he coined the term epigenetics. We are not our genes. Whoa, that threw everything upside down. Right?
Boy, he sure did. And Dr. Joe Dispenza,
I love him.
Chance to interview them as well. And I've learned so much, and I love what you're sharing, and I love your information. I really look forward to a book that you are going to come out with soon, right? Hopefully.
Yes. And what it is it's as I was open my own records over issues, things, questions, what would come through was information for humanity. And I was like, almost similar to probably Conversations with God and Neale Donald Walsch, so I wound up having conversations, and I've been grappling with, do I put my own readings with my own questions about things? And so, the answer I get is yes, because they answer my question. And my questions are questions everyone has anyway. Like, why can't I lose weight? Why can't I find the right partner? Why don't I know what I want to do in my life? I mean, it's like, so why not? Right. So it's partly that. And then other stuff that I opened up the records of the coronavirus, and that's in the book.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk.
Yeah.
That's
amazing stuff was coming in, and I went, okay. And they said that it's important that you do this book. So the reason it took me longer was my own doubt. We all deal with this. And also, do I put my own personal life into this? And I realized I should just do it. Yeah.
Thank you
I'm almost there.
so much, Mary Medeiros. You are full of such wonderful information, and thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here and helping others heal and understand their Akashic records. And next time you come on, we can get more into your work and how you do that, what the process is, and all these other wonderful things.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to do that. I love the records. I really do.
What's the best way people can find out more about you, Mary?
Okay. So my website is spirittherapybymary.com.
Mm-hmm.
So spirit therapy, so there'll wind up being 2 T's in there because of the spirit and the therapy. Spirittherapybymary.com. And my email is adivinerealm@gmail.com. So both of those that's how you reach me. And you can reach me through the website, and there's stuff to read in there, like, stuff about the records on the website. So that can help too.
It's a great website. Mary Medeiros, thank you for all you do for others. You're the best.
Thank you.
Lovely.
And you too, really. Thank you for what you do.
Oh,
seriously.
It's my soul journey, I guess. It's our soul journey to do
Yes.
this, right?
Yes. Like keep on keeping on, they say. So
there you go. Keep on keeping on.
Good.
Have a beautiful rest of your day, and blessings to you.
Thank you, to you too. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being on the couch today. As I always say, take care of yourself first, love yourself, and then you'll be great for others. Thanks for joining me.
You're listening to On the Couch with Dr. Michelle, right here on LA Talk Radio.